Are we there?
Yep,
Here, Mayor Chuck.
Can you hear me?
there's a group.
I say, can you hear me, John?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Mayor Berube has a family event tonight, so he won't be participating.
So we can do what we want?
Whatever the chief will let you do.
Got free
Okay.
reins, Mayor.
All right. I'm using my computer tonight. Is my vision coming through, or can you see me, or am I just a blank?
We can't see you. We can hear you fine.
Okay. Well, we'll go from there. Is everybody present for the meeting that's going to be?
I'm here.
Okay.
I believe we're missing some committee members. I'm not sure if they're joining us or not.
I hear somebody in the background, but
Mayor Chug, I think we're missing a handful of the committee members. I'm not sure if they're joining us or not. We could probably get going.
okay to get started then?
I think so.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone to our North Ogden Public Safety Building Committee. Appreciate each one of you serving on this committee, and I feel like we have a great group to work with in order to carry out this important step. So to begin with, do I have a volunteer that would be willing to offer an invocation and a pledge of allegiance?
Mayor, I'll do that.
Okay.
Father in heaven, we're thankful for the opportunity we have to meet together tonight and discuss the public safety building, and bless it will be inspired to make good decisions, make good comments, and be open to the needs of the city and the citizens. Bless it, we will be able to take into consideration difficult times that we're in, and bless the citizens of the city that will be able to deal with this, and we'll all be able to get through it okay. Again, we ask that the Spirit will be with us as we conduct this meeting tonight. We say this prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Going with, I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
just for all.
Thank you. Okay, we need to move to the consent agenda. We need a discussion or action to consider the December 11th Public Safety Building Committee meeting minutes. Is there any changes or any additions that need to be put with that consent agenda? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve, Mayor Dirk.
Okay. Been moved. Do you have a second?
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
It's been seconded. All in favor? Say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion approved. We'll get some delayed. Okay, moving on with the agenda. Is there any public comments that anyone would like to make?
As of right now, I don't see anyone with their hands up. We have 2 attendees.
Okay. Seeing no public comments, we'll move on to item 3 on the agenda, project steps and timeline. All of you should have a copy of the facility planning model. It was found by Chief Quinney. We thought it was an excellent start for what we need to do in order to develop a flow chart to accomplish the mission that we're setting out to do. As I look at that flow chart, I would just give you a little bit of preface here and invite anybody who has any other comments, feel free to discuss that as well. First of all, in step 1, it was identify and document facility problems. We have done that one. Build a police internal planning team. I would consider this group as that step accomplished. Build the political support. It's been presented to the council. So that one is done. Moving on to step 4, identify and secure planning funds. We did that. We obtained $10,000 to, it was approved to start the planning funds when we hired JRCA. Step 5 is a document policing philosophy. I don't know if we need to do that one right at the present time or maybe not at all. I would ask the chief if he feels like there's anything we need to do in that particular step.
I think we partially covered that in the feasibility study with the different aspects of the building as they support public and personnel and community policing.
Okay. So at this point in time, I think unless we need to come back to it at a later date, I think that one can be accomplished. Step 6, establish project pre-design team. And that was when we hired JRCA to do our preliminary design and feasibility study. So that one's complete. Step 7 is establish community support for the project. As I look at that one, it looks like it's not in the right place as far as the way I look at it. I think that ought to be down there between step 11 and step 12, where after we develop the preliminary project, design construction costs, before we proceed to obtain project funding. Does anybody have any comment in regard to that one?
I think it's a 2-tiered step. I think it belongs both where it's at and where you just mentioned. Because I think we had kind of overwhelming community support to begin with until a dollar amount started getting talked about.
Okay, so, and I was thinking along the lines of open houses and so forth that would take place prior to our looking at funding the project. So people are aware of what the funds necessary that would be to complete the project, where the funds would be coming from, and the impact it would have. So maybe we consider that partially done, then move it for a later date, as you mentioned, a 2-stage. Anybody else want to chime in on that one?
I agree with the chief.
Okay.
Um,
All
I,
right, then.
I
Go ahead.
agree too, Brent, but I think we need to still talk to the community about what needs to be done and why we're doing it, and, you know, get support back.
That's true. It's an
I don't think
ongoing thing.
Yeah, I don't think we can ignore that.
Yeah, it's going to be an ongoing thing. Each of us need to spend some time talking to people and letting them know the need for this facility. Okay, moving on, step 6, conduct space needs analysis. We've done that one. Evaluate facility options. We've been to several places, looked at their facilities and decided what would be applicable to us. And so I think that one is probably done at this point in time. Conduct a site evaluation. That was done at our last meeting, so that one is completed. The next one is develop a preliminary project design construction costs. And we've done that partially, working with JRCA. He's given us some preliminary development costs, design construction, and show us what we could have and what would fit on the property. So that one's probably done at this point in time, but there will be some other work that needs to be done on that one. Obtain project funding. John and I talked a little bit about this one today, and if it goes for a general bond, of course, it couldn't be put on the ballot until 2021 of November. And I was thinking, hopefully we wouldn't have to wait that long to begin to look at obtaining project funding. Maybe other sources or programs or bonds may be considered. Does anyone on the committee want to mention anything about that one?
I was talking to Chief Kirby in Tooele, and he mentioned they've just completed their facility, and they were in line for a loan. I don't know the exact name of it, but it's for rural agencies that kind of are affected by mining and different federal things like that, and they're low interest loans, and they were in line for that for their facility. They backed out because of the bond rates, and they ended up getting a better rate with the bond than they would have with that federal loan, which is somewhat considered a grant because of the low interest rate on it.
Well, bond rates now are down 2.5% or something of that nature. I don't know how long they'll stay there, but I just was concerned about waiting for a general type bond. I was hoping that there was some other source that we could consider.
Well, that's a good point. I think it's a guessing game though on those rates and when they're going to go back up. I'd hate to see, the cost rise, the interest costs by putting it off a year and a half.
I hate the whole project to be held up that long for that one reason.
Yeah.
John, you mentioned some things that maybe we could take a look at.
Sorry, I didn't. So as far as financing goes, there's the two types of bonds that we've been talking about: the revenue bonds and the GO bonds. The GO bonds, like Mayor Chuck mentioned, are the ones that happen at the election and that's the only way they're authorized. They are also the cheapest bonds to receive. As far as rates go, they typically are, because they're guaranteed by the city's property tax. So they're very favorable. Plus, they've had full support of the residents. Some of those that have been GO bonds in the past have been the county library bond that was passed, about 5 years ago, maybe 6, as well as others in the area. Revenue bonds are typically a little more expensive, but they are tied to a specific revenue source. But they are not typically as cheap because they haven't been voted on by the voters. But right now, the rates aren't extremely high for any of the bonds. They're just relative to each other. One community, their GO bond rate, I think, was 2.27% on a 20-year note, which is a pretty good return, or a pretty good rate for borrowing money. So, is that the stuff you wanted me to share, Mayor Chug?
Yes. So those are the two things that would be utilized for the construction of this building, those two types of bonds.
John, I know the city's in the process of contracting with a financial advisor. You think when that's done, that could be something they could put together as far as a projection, as go back to what rates were 6 months ago compared to what they are now, assuming that in a year and a half the rates might be back up to where they were 6 months ago, and just be able to show the committee and
Yeah, so that is the type of stuff that they would be able to provide us information on: historic rates, sometimes they might not say it's their estimate of future rates, but they might be able to talk about increases and decreases. They'd probably be really cautious to give you any specific number for risk of you feeling that they somehow promise that's what it would be in 6 or 12 months. But they could talk about all those types of things. Specifically, the historical data would seem to be very valuable.
maybe that's something we could ask them to do for us.
So who is this we would need to engage, John?
Oh, so the council has not approved their contract yet. The financial advisor that has been selected is Zions Bank. Or it's Zions Public Finance. It's a division of the Zions Bank company. And so the council needs to approve that before they're able to engage in any conversations about specific stuff like that.
Okay, so when could we put that on the agenda?
So it's supposed to be on the council agenda for May 26th.
Okay. Okay, I think that would be good. So we have some kind of direction on where we want to go and need to go. So we can start discussing this with the general public.
John, regardless, of whatever, May 26th, their contract gets signed and then they get us some kind of report. We're still probably looking into fiscal year 21 to do anything either way, right?
The council would have to amend the budget. I think as far as design and those things goes, that's going to push us into the next fiscal year for sure. Yeah. So fiscal year 21 starts July 1st of this year.
Oh, I actually meant fiscal year 22. Sorry.
So it depends on how aggressive the council wants to be with how they want to fund this project, on whether or not if the city had the money in the bank right now, they could probably hire an architect and a contractor and have the project underway in 3 or 4 months if they really wanted to. But I think you're right, Chief. It's probably looking at something being built after July 1 of next year.
Well, even that would be ideal if that could be done.
So what, John, what would be the time savings between the two different bonds? Even if the, the one had to go on a ballot in November of 21. It would just be a few months, wouldn't it?
Well, so if sorry, I misunderstood your previous question. If I was thinking to start the actual project, if the council wanted to start the bond as looking at a revenue bond, or if this committee wanted to recommend that, then the revenue bond, it would probably take 3 or 4 months from today to get it put together, voted on the council and out. So it could happen much quicker. But that would, there's a lot of factors that would have to fall in place for it to happen that quickly.
Do you happen to know if that bond acts similar to what like a construction loan does, where it's basically you're just paying interest until the project's completed, or is it different?
It's different when a municipal bond is released. Typically, if it's a 20-year note, there's typically either 20 or 21 payments involved that are yearly payments. And basically, as soon as you accept the money, you start making payments. And so, in our case, most likely what would happen is the bond, if we were moving to a bond, or if we were doing a bond, then we would get everything in place to move forward, and then use fund balance to do the design portion of the project, so that as soon as the design portion was done, the bond could be issued and then the construction could start, because we would start paying on the money immediately.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then we'll proceed that direction then. Get that on the council agenda so we know what direction we're going and what bond we want to seek and how soon that we could proceed. Somewhere in between that one is what I mentioned a moment ago about getting community support. We would need to have some open houses and probably large open house at the senior center or someplace of that nature, so that we can get community support and get their feelings and their willingness to support this project. So that's the reason I mentioned that probably needs to be done between step 11 and step 12 again. And given the fact we don't know how long we're going to be plagued with this virus and the restrictions of meetings and so forth as to when that might take place. Hopefully this fall we can have some of those open houses, and we need probably to find some individuals who know how to put one of these together and have all the illustrations and this type of thing available for them to see on kind of an open house. Any ideas from the committee on?
Well, I thought the architecture company said that they could help with that kind of stuff with the open houses, and then when we first met.
That's true. That's a good point.
They did some of that. Also, Mayor, what are you talking about?
What's that again?
Go ahead. JRCA's what they were contracted to do, they're pretty much done. So we would have to contract with an architect and a design firm to get what you're talking about, Kevin, I think.
Okay, so we've exhausted our contract with them at this point in time, is that right?
Yeah, they're just finalizing their final report and they'll be done with what they've contracted to do.
Okay. Okay, well, those things need to be fit in there somewhere, and a lot of it will depend on when and how we can do an open house. I think also that our elected officials and maybe others in the staff need to be putting information out, like in the connection or other venues, so that we start the people thinking about that. Probably coming from the mayor or the council, articles and illustrations and so forth in the Connection magazine or other type.
Well, the next agenda item we'll talk about is kind of addresses that a little bit, Mayor.
Okay, the virtual tour type thing.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to step 13, secure and purchase a site. We've already got a site. We've already decided where we'd like to build it. It fits there very well. It would look nice on our campus and a good central location. So that project or that part of it's done. Then step 14, deliver design and construction services, along with selecting an architect. We'd probably go out to bid to select an architect. And then we'd hire them to design the facility. Step 17, build a facility. And develop occupancy strategy would be the last step. I think we ought to move to step 18 right now, but that's probably not feasible. Anyway, getting through the hurdles of selling it to the public and obtaining the project funding will be the biggest thing that we need to accomplish. Once we get word back from the council on the 26th as to what type of bond and so forth, that'll help us put dates on the rest of the project. Any other comments in regard to that?
Yeah, I think we need some clarification on what that is on the 26th to the council. It sounded to me like on the 26th, there was just a finance contract going in front of the council and we wouldn't be able to get any real information from them at that time. John, am I misunderstanding that?
So I think the request was also to review the final report from JRCA.
Okay. It seems like we need to be able to provide the council with, like their 3 options, detailed options for funding, so they can make a real educated decision. Is that something we can put together before the finance counselor comes on contract, or do we need to wait for that information?
We wouldn't have any sort of rate comparison between the different types of funding at that point. But I think we could, if this group wanted to delay the presentation for a council meeting, then we could get the financial advisor under contract and they could give us those estimates, just, hey, here's what rates are today, that the council could look at.
Could we do that on the 26th then, John?
So we wouldn't have the financial advisor under contract until the 26th. So it would be the June 9th meeting.
Oh, okay.
For the presentation on the JRCA portion.
Do you think the financial advisor could have a comparison report for us by then?
Yes, I think by the 9th, yes.
I think we shoot for that then.
I think we just need to give the council some real good information so that they can really weigh their options and you know, whatever time they need to make the right decision so we can move forward and we don't keep putting it off, just trying to provide them information, get it to them, and let's get a direction, whatever that may be.
Okay.
The council would give their approval at that time for us to proceed with Zion's, if I understand that correctly, John.
Right. They would be under contract on the 26th.
Okay.
So John, is it, I've heard kind of some grumblings about possibly having cash on hand to do like the architect design, things like that. Is that something that would have to wait until next budget year to get approved? Or is that, like you said, just maybe a budget amendment if they feel that's the direction they want to go to council?
So it could be a budget amendment. We do have several projects that are drawing on the funds that would compete with this project for money. Specifically the road widening up Washington Boulevard, as well as the community detention pond park project. So those two projects are competing for some of the same money. They also, both of those projects also have some outside funding sources that the police station would not qualify for.
Okay. Any other comments regarding the facility planning model that we've discussed this evening? So we can give this information back to the council and the mayor and get moving on this project as fast as we can. Okay. Seeing no other comments, and feel free to email me if you have other items that we need to consider on this facility planning model. I'd be glad to respond and try to move forward on that. Okay, we'll move on to item 4, virtual tour of the current police building. Our presenter will be Dirk Quinney, Chief of Police.
Thanks, Mayor. Did everybody have a chance to view this PowerPoint that I sent out in its draft form?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it was very good. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I've already got a few emails regarding a couple grammar and spelling things that I need to adjust, but anything else as far as the content, that any suggestions from the group?
I think it's a little hard when you're comparing the two facilities together to really get a good picture of what our facility is and what it's lacking regarding Tooele. It's kind of hard to do in this type of format, but I don't know of any better format than to do it.
Chief, the only thing that I would say is that you need to somehow put the smell of the old building in along with the new building. Sorry, that they have to get the full effect of that building.
I agree. I thought long and hard how I could get smell into this presentation, and technology's out there.
It's carrying around a bottle, but it didn't work.
Just invite people to soak one of their masks in garbage and then wear the mask while they're viewing the presentation.
Maybe a smelly sock.
Well,
See, we have- We have
Yeah.
options. Have to get creative.
It won't hurt my feelings, so feel free to email me out any suggestions you might have, and otherwise, I'll post this on our website and I'll post this on our Facebook page next week after I make a couple of corrections that have been pointed out. And be happy to take any suggestions you have before then.
Chief,
That would be great, because then that's getting more of this information out to the public.
And I know a lot of you have, a lot more contacts out there. So I'll let you know as soon as I post it. You can grab it off the Facebook and share it with, whoever you feel be appropriate.
Okay. Any other comments to the chief regarding this presentation?
Chief,
Yes.
I thought some of the comparison on some of your pictures that you took, like especially your evidence room, how it is compared to Twilla's, and also where they detain prisoners. Some of those were very eye-opening, I thought. How poor our was and how it could and should look like.
Well, good. Thank you. I'm glad that point came across.
Very much so.
Yeah, and those are some of the biggest weaknesses in our present building, so that's good.
Yeah, safety and security is one of the biggest issues of the old building, our current facility, and evidence obviously is important for prosecution, and we certainly would hate to lose cases because our evidence lacks procedures, facilities. So I'm glad those points came across.
They did.
Any other comments on the presentation? Seeing none, we'll move on to public comments. Is there any public comments from visitors this evening?
Nobody yet, but the mayor did ask me to convey at least one thought to the group, to just make it clear. He just wanted to make sure that, some of the direction that he's getting from the council, and that I think, is that we're going to be focusing on making sure we're getting the things we need. And maybe some of the wants might go to the wayside because of that. But he just wanted to make sure that that we're going to be moderate and frugal in what we're getting, making sure we're getting what the police need without managing the citizens' money at the same time in the most efficient way that we can. So he just asked me to pass that along.
Okay, and I think those are good points. I think we all need to understand that, and I think we all do understand that. We want to make sure that we have a good facility that will last for 50 years, and also within the constraints of using the funds wisely. And I think the group we have assembled this evening is very well directed along those lines. Any other public comments?
I think that, in what we've been talking about and the needs assessment that was done by JRCA, I think the only thing that could be labeled a want would be to build for the future, instead of what we need right now, to make sure we, are passing on to the next generation a facility that meets their needs as well. So just my opinion, the staff that met with JRCA that for this needs assessment was very frugal. There was talks I guess it was jokingly about a gun range in the basement, or but obviously we know that's a want, and that's not going to happen. So the facility itself, as we've discussed with JRCA, is the modern and current needs of a functional police department and justice court. And the only thing in there that's above and beyond anything we need now is room for growth. I don't know if anybody sees anything different as far as wants that can be eliminated. I've kind of thumbed through it, and I really don't see any. And I know that's something I got to sell, but
I think this committee is very, very well aware of that and has been in our discussions with JRCA. Any other public comments?
No, not that I can see.
Okay. Any comments from the group, council, mayor, staff, or? Seeing none, then I would ask for a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we got a second to the choir.
Okay, so who was the first motion and who is the second?
Kevin made a motion.
Okay, and who was my second?
I was.
Which is
Karen.
Thank you.
Karen. Sorry.
Okay, we're good. Thank you.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
I
Any opposed? Thank you all for coming this evening. It's been a pleasure to interact with you. Thanks for your good ideas. I'll try to summarize this thing so we can get it to the mayor and John, and they can refine it from here. Thanks so much. Have a good evening.
thanks, everybody.
thanks.
Okay.
See ya.